Hey everyone, welcome back. It's funny, we use these terms all the time, right? Agile, Scrum, Kanban, they're like everywhere.
Hmm.
But have you ever stopped to think about where they actually came from? Like the history behind them. We're going to take a deep dive into that today, and believe me, it's a lot more interesting than you might think.
Yeah, it is interesting. A lot of people jump into these agile practices without realizing, they're really tapping into this rich history of ideas that have been around for decades, kind of like trying to bake a cake without really understanding the recipe. You might end up with something, but it's not going to be what you could have made.
It's like thinking rock music started with the first garage band you
Mm.
heard. Right. There's a whole history there. We actually came across this video presentation that digs into all this, and it kind of turns everything we thought we knew about Agile on its head.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things it tackles is that whole myth that Agile just sort of appeared out of thin air with the Agile manifesto back in 2001.
Right.
But when you look closer, you can trace a lot of these concepts way back, like to the 1930s with lean thinking, even earlier, the 1940s with Kanban. And then, of course, you have Scrum coming onto the scene in the mid-90s.
So Agile had this whole underground history before it went mainstream. That's fascinating. But why does this history even matter? I mean, we have the manifesto, we have frameworks, tools. Why not just get to work?
Well, and that's where this video's perspective is so valuable, I think, because focusing only on the agile practices themselves without getting that historical context, that cultural context, it's like, buying a fancy new toolbox full of tools, but having no clue how to use any of them.
Oh, I like that. You've got the tools, but you're clueless. Okay, so let's start with I guess you could say the granddaddy of them all, lean. Seems like so many modern approaches to work, they can trace their roots back to that way of thinking. I remember you mentioning the Toyota production system, how it revolutionized manufacturing.
Absolutely. Lean, coming out of that system at Toyota, it really fundamentally changed how we look at efficiency and creating value. It shifted that whole focus away from just optimizing individual tasks to streamlining the entire flow of work, making sure that everything you're doing adds value for the customer.
Not just working faster, but smarter, and making sure everything matters to the person at the end of the line.
Exactly.
I'm thinking back to that project we worked on together a while back. We got so bogged down with all those meetings and approvals.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
If we'd had some lean thinking back then, we could have saved so much time and energy.
Right. We have started by figuring out exactly what the customer valued and then streamline the process to deliver that value with, as little waste as possible.
Okay, so lean is about streamlining and cutting out the waste. Got it. How does that connect to, like, those colorful sticky notes everyone uses in Agile? You know what I mean?
Well, that's where Kanban enters the picture. And it's a perfect example of lean principles in action. Kanban actually started as a pretty simple visual system back in the 40s at Toyota for managing inventory. They would use cards, these Kanban cards, to signal when parts were needed on the production line. So it was like this pull system, everything flowing smoothly.
A pull system. Is that kind of like, those restaurants where they only make the sushi when someone orders it,
Huh?
instead of just making a ton of it and hoping people eat it?
Perfect analogy. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
In a pull system, you only start working on something when there's a demand for it, prevents bottlenecks, you reduce waste. Everyone's working on the right things at the right time.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. Instead of just piling more and more work on everyone's plate.
Right. And the cool thing about Kanban is it's evolved from this simple card system into like a powerful visual tool for managing any kind of workflow, really. IT, software, marketing, even creative projects.
So you have a visual board. Instead of those giant to-do lists, you can see what everyone's working on, what's next, where the problems are. Much easier to wrap your head around, especially for visual people like me.
Exactly. Kanban makes it all visible so everyone's on the same page, helps identify those roadblocks, and you can collaborate better. A great way to, bring those lean principles of flow and continuous improvement to life.
Okay, I'm liking Kanban. But before we go crazy with sticky notes all over the office, let's talk about, the approach that everyone seems to be talking about these days. Scrum, I guess, the rock star of the agile world. What's the story there, and how does it all fit with lean and Kanban?
That's a great question, and this is where things get even more interesting. So Scrum, as popular as it is now, actually was around before the Agile Manifesto even came about in the mid-90s. But unlike Lean, which started in manufacturing, Scrum really has its roots in software development.
Ah, so it's like the techie cousin of lean and Kanban.
Yeah, exactly. And while it takes some cues from Lean and Kanban, like the iterative development, the constant improvement, it definitely has its own unique flavor. It's a framework that embraces complexity, change, those situations where you can't plan everything out perfectly in advance.
Sounds a lot like my life, honestly. Always adapting, new priorities popping up.
Right. And that's why I think so many people connect with Agile these days. Scrum, with its focus on short sprints, those daily check-ins, the constant feedback, it gives you that structure to handle uncertainty while still making progress and delivering value along the way, like having a compass and a map in this ever-changing world.
Okay, now I'm seeing how all these pieces fit together. It's like a puzzle. But what about the Agile manifesto? Wasn't that a big turning point?
Oh, it definitely was. And this video sheds light on the context around how it came about. Back in 2001, you had these 17 software developers, and they were frustrated. They were using these traditional project management approaches, and it was stifling innovation holding them back. They couldn't keep up with the demands of that dot-com boom.
So it was like a rebellion against the old ways of doing things, like a declaration of independence for developers who wanted to move faster, be more responsive.
That's a great way to put it. They weren't necessarily trying to start a revolution or anything, but they knew there had to be a better way to develop software, something that embraced change, collaboration, customer feedback.
And that's how the Agile Manifesto was born. Those 4 values, 12 principles, they've become like the guiding star for so many teams.
Exactly. The manifesto, it wasn't about setting these rigid rules, but more about defining values and principles that could guide teams towards a better way of working. More adaptive, more collaborative, more customer focused. It was a call to action to put people first, respond to change, be flexible.
Wow. So this manifesto that came about from frustration with old ways of working, now it's the foundation for a global movement. It's changing how we think about work in all kinds of fields, not just software. It's pretty amazing how a small group of people can have such a huge impact.
Yeah, it really is. Shows you the power of ideas, that desire to find better ways of working, to collaborate. And what's really fascinating is these ideas that came from Lean, from Kanban, from Scrum, they're now converging with the most cutting-edge technology out there, artificial intelligence. It's like the past and the future are coming together, creating these new possibilities for how we work, how we create.
Wait, hold on. We went from Toyota factories in the 30s to software teams in the 90s, and now AI.
Nah.
How does AI fit into this whole Agile story?
I think one of the most interesting points that this video brings up is that, AI development, it's not just about building these fancy algorithms. It's about like orchestrating this whole complex ecosystem with all the data, the models, the people involved.
It's like having a super fast sports car. Doesn't matter how powerful it is, if you don't have a skilled driver, good roads, and a destination in mind, you need all the pieces to work together.
Exactly. And that's where, lean thinking comes in, provides a solid framework for getting all those core parts of AI working smoothly. The data, the models, the infrastructure behind it all. Got to eliminate that waste, streamline the workflows, make sure the whole system hums.
So it's applying those same lean principles we talked about, like defining value, mapping the flow, but this time we're doing it for data and algorithms.
Precisely. But here's the thing with AI, it's inherently, well, unpredictable, always changing. And that's where Agile really shines. It gives us the mindset and the tools to deal with that uncertainty. We got to embrace the changes, experiment, adapt quickly. It's like the steering wheel and brakes of our AI sports car.
Oh, I like that analogy. So lean's like the engine, making sure everything runs smoothly, and agile is how we steer, how we adjust to the road ahead.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a dance, but it's definitely doable. Imagine like an AI team working on a new feature for a product.
Okay.
They could use Lean to, let's say, optimize their data collection, make sure it's high quality, eliminate any unnecessary steps that slow things down. At the same time, they're using agile processes to fine-tune the product design, incorporate user feedback, adapt to changes in the market.
So you've got this well-tuned engine, but it can also shift gears on the fly. Performance and flexibility.
Exactly, but there's a bit of a hurdle that a lot of organizations run into with AI, and that's, getting their people up to speed. AI teams, they need this blend of skills like data science, software engineering, and they need a good grasp of both lean and agile.
It's like finding that, what do they call it, a unicorn. Someone who can handle complex data and also navigate all the twists and turns of a project.
Yeah, it can be tough to find those folks, and that's where that cultural aspect that the video talks about, it becomes really important. Organizations need to create environments where people are always learning, always experimenting, where it's okay to, try new things, make mistakes, and learn from them.
So moving away from that do it this way mentality
Right.
to a more collaborative learning-based culture.
Exactly. It's a big shift for some organizations, but it's about building trust, open communication, seeing those, successes and failures as learning opportunities, give people that space to try things, to innovate, to push those boundaries of what AI can do.
It reminds me of that part in the video where they talked about psychological safety. Like, if people are afraid to take risks, to speak up, you're not going to get that real innovation, that agility.
Absolutely. Psychological safety is so important. People need to feel comfortable speaking their mind, challenging the status quo, sharing their ideas, especially with AI, where you're dealing with these complex systems and, potential consequences.
And speaking of consequences, we can't ignore the ethics of AI, right? It's not just about cool tech, it's about doing it responsibly. The video touched on that too, the importance of thinking about AI's impact on society.
It's huge. I mean, AI has this incredible potential to change the world in so many ways, but we need to be careful. Think about the ethics, bias, fairness, transparency, accountability.
Hmm.
These are all things we have to be aware of as we develop and use AI.
We need to weave those ethical considerations into the whole process, right? From collecting data to training the models to deploying them and beyond.
Absolutely. It has to be in the DNA of AI. And that means having a culture that values responsibility, diverse viewpoints, and a willingness to really challenge assumptions, address those potential biases.
So it's not just about technical skills, but also about ethical awareness, being able to see those potential risks and figure out how to avoid them. It's a lot to think about.
It is, yeah. AI is a powerful tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. We have to choose wisely.
This is also fascinating. I feel like we're barely scratching the surface here. There's so much more to explore with Agile and AI.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so real-world examples. Because it's one thing to talk about the theory of all this, right? Lean, Agile, AI. But seeing it actually being used in companies, solving real problems.
Yeah.
That's what makes it click for me.
I agree. Seeing it in action, that's how you really understand the potential. And that video presentation we keep mentioning, it actually does a great job of highlighting some pretty cool examples.
Perfect. Let's hear them. Give me those success stories.
All right, well, how about healthcare? That's a field that's, ripe for disruption and innovation with AI. Imagine like a hospital using AI to create personalized treatment plans for cancer patients.
Wow.
They're gathering tons of data, medical records, genetic info, even lifestyle factors, feeding it all into AI models that can actually predict how each individual patient will respond to different treatments.
That's amazing. Sounds like something out of science fiction. But also, that must be a huge undertaking, right? All that data, making sure the AI is accurate, the ethical concerns.
Yes.
It's a big challenge, definitely. And that's where lean principles are so important. The hospital might use lean to, let's say, make their data collection process more efficient, ensure the data's high quality, get rid of any unnecessary steps that could slow things down. They'll also need to have, really robust checks and balances in place to make sure those AI models are working properly.
So you're building that solid foundation first before you even get to the AI part. But healthcare is always changing too, right? New research, new treatments coming out all the time. How do you keep up with that pace while still maintaining the accuracy and reliability you need for medicine?
And that's where Agile comes in. They might use Agile to iterate on those treatment plans, incorporate those new research findings, adapt to feedback from doctors and patients. Maybe they have these small teams working together who can respond quickly to changes, adjust their approach as needed.
So it's like you need a race car that can also change its tires in the middle of the race. Speed and agility to keep up with all the advancements, but patient safety is always the priority. What about other industries? Are they seeing success with this lean, agile AI combo?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Financial services is another good example. They're using AI to combat fraud, manage risk. Picture this. A bank using AI to analyze millions of transactions happening every second, looking for those tiny patterns that might signal fraudulent activity.
That's huge for security. But how do they make sure the AI doesn't, accidentally flag legitimate transactions as fraud?
Again, lean is key here. They might use it to, for instance, optimize how they collect data, get rid of duplicate information, and really put those AI models through rigorous testing. But the thing is, the fraudsters, they're always changing their tactics too. The bank has to be able to keep up.
It's a cat and mouse game, right? Always evolving, always learning to stay one step ahead.
Exactly. And agile processes are perfect for that. The bank could use agile to create this dynamic feedback loop, always monitoring how the AI is doing, bringing in new data, tweaking those algorithms to stay ahead of the bad guys.
Like a high-stakes chess game, except AI is your chess player. It can process so much information, see those patterns that humans might miss.
It's a powerful tool, no doubt. But even the best AI needs human guidance, human oversight. We can't forget that. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in the right way or the wrong way.
It's not just about the tech, it's about how we use it, the values that are built into it.
Exactly. And that's why those cultural aspects we talked about, trust, transparency, collaboration, ethical awareness, they're all so important. We need organizations that are, yes, technically skilled, but also ethically grounded, where people can speak up, challenge assumptions, and make sure AI is being used for good, for the benefit of everyone.
This has been so insightful. I feel like we're at the very beginning of the AI revolution, and this convergence of lean, agile AI, it's going to change everything about work.
I agree. It's an exciting time, and there are challenges for sure. But if we approach it the right way, with the right mindset, the right tools, and that commitment to always learning, to ethical development, we can really harness the power of AI to create a better world, a more efficient world, a more adaptable world, a world that's more human-centered.
It's like we're at the start of a whole new era, a digital renaissance,
Right.
where tech and human ingenuity can come together to solve some of the biggest problems we face.
It really is an incredible time to be alive. To see all this happening, I'm optimistic about the future.
Me too. This deep dive has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and insights. And for our listeners, if you want to learn more, be sure to check out that video presentation we've been talking about. The link's in the description. It's full of great information, and it will really get you thinking.
It's a must-watch, absolutely.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.